off the bench, So that's a decision, bringing Cobus in from outside the 23 into the starting lineup.
Jacques, there was talk of Dwayne Vermeulen coming back into camp and a whole lot of medical procedure that he's had to go through. Could you just tell us about that, which made him not available for selection?
Yeah, no, Matt. Dwayne is in a process of return to play. So the first phase is return to training. So obviously went through his rehab, did his return to training, and I must say the guys who was in charge of his rehab and return to train did a wonderful job. And obviously he's now in a return to play process. And we just got him into our mix, and he started working with us. He did part of our training yesterday, and like I said, we will not play him if he's not ready. And obviously he's got to be ready in terms of himself being confident. He's got to be ready in terms of things that we change, and hasn't been in the environment for a while, so got to get up to speed with how we do things. And then thirdly, he has to be full on medically fit and conditioning fit, So getting players in, even if you think Rugby Championship after the British and Irish Lions, and then going abroad to Australasia for the Rugby Championship, there will be strict protocols in getting players in terms of COVID. So to get players in will take some time. So we will always try to get in as quick as possible.
And with the injury to Peter Steff, Jacques, was there a temptation? You've obviously gone with Quagga and Marco on the bench again. Was there a temptation in having to move Franco to the side of the scrum to possibly have the likes of a Reinhard Elstad covering lock and flank on the bench?
Yeah, no, there was definitely a discussion in that sense. The discussion was stick with a 6-2 split, or should we go to a 5-3 split? And obviously it is a big discussion in terms of which one we went. Felt specific game. This will be the best option for us, and we'll try and get it for the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, to bring a slight bit of humour to proceedings, I mean, when you say Morné Steyn replaces Loet de Jager on the bench, it's not exactly like for like, is it?
No, and again, with Morné coming in, it was also a toss-up between Morné and Elton. Morné played for us in the SAA game, and I thought he controlled the game quite well in that game against the British and Irish Lions. And then Elton did excellent for us in the first Test match. When he came on for Andre. When Andre started cramping at the back end of that Test match because he was in isolation for the COVID. So yes, it was a big toss-up, and in our discussion when we went through this selection process, it's a long season. We're going straight into Rugby Championship against Argentina next week, and then it's the Rugby Championship in Australasia, and then the end of year tour. So it's pretty much keeping everybody up to date, giving them game time, try and spread the load, so it's almost managing that. And like I say, we could have put Elton in there. It's almost like for like I said, both of them were excellent in the two outings that they had against the British and Irish.
Jacques, you wouldn't have had long to digest the changes made by the Lions, but they are significant. Midfield, back three, and front row. Does that suggest anything in particular around what you might face differently on Saturday?
Matt, yes, like I always said with the British and Irish Lions, that's the wonderful thing that they have in terms of the squad that they selected. They can, like I said it numerous times, they can outflank you, they can go through you, they can try and go over you, So our challenge will be to adapt as quickly as possible. I felt in the first Test match we struggled to adapt in the second half. when they changed the way they attacked us, and I thought in the second test we handled that a little bit better. So as we always say in the squad or in the team, that we are solution driven, and you will always get faced with challenges in a test match, and you can do all the planning as much as you want, but there always will be challenges that arise in the test match, and we must find solutions for that. And nothing will change in terms of this third test. It's a do or die for both teams. It's a final, and it's going to be massive.
On the subject of adapting, before you came head coach, it's fair to say you lived, breathed, and slept defence. How pleased are you with the defensive effort across 2 test matches where you conceded 1 try, and that from a maul?
Yes, Matt. No, I think hats off to the players. I always say, he's Cobus sitting next to me. I always say, listen, the players, they make us as coaches look good. They're the guys that need to get the tap on the shoulder. Because they're the oaks who put their bodies on the line. They're the Peter Stephs that injure their shoulders, the Faf that runs injuries, Dwayne, Luard in the World Cup final. They are the guys that sacrifice their bodies for their country. They're the guys that need to get the credit for that. I'm just thankful that they are willing to do that and to sacrifice themselves for the country.
Thank you very much, Jacques. Thanks, Rayon. If I could come back to Cobus a little later. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. And a very good afternoon from my side, ladies and gents, to our team announcement press conference. We also have Cobus Reinach here at the top table with Jacques. And I'd like to say now that the floor is open for questions, that we have issued a statement relating to the charge of misconduct to Mr. Erasmus as well as SA Rugby. And during this press conference, we will refrain from adding anything onto that statement, please. So if we can stick to the matter at hand, which is the team announcement, I will greatly appreciate that. Right, we will, to start us off on our second bit of this press conference, we go over to Craig Lewis. Good afternoon, Craig.
Afternoon, Ray. Thanks. Jacques, just one to you on Franco Mostert playing at flank. How do you think he'll manage there? And, how much will you miss Peter Steph du Toit as well, being as influential as he is?
Yeah, it's always big losing a guy like Peter Steph. He was 2019, he was World Player of the Year. And having him in the team, he's so accustomed to the role that he has to play as 7. But in saying that, Franco has covered us there a lot before. So we've moved him there before. And even in games, he would always, even if he starts, he's always a guy that has to in the preparation up to the week, he has to know both roles. And now I'm confident in him, and like you could see on the weekend, we had no issue moving him there.
Thank you, Jacques. Heinz Schenk, you up next.
Thanks, Rayon. Hi, guys. Hope you're all well. Jacques, I'm pretty sure you don't want it to necessarily get as close as that, in this deciding test. But how romantic would it be if Mr. Mornay-Steyn, is up on that field again and he has to slot a last-minute penalty against the Lions again?
Hopefully it doesn't come down to that. But it's a fair comment in terms of. And that's probably one of the big things that weighed in Mornay's selection favour, is the fact that he's been in big games like this. He understands the pressure that it will be. Like I say, I think if you take World Cup final and you take this game, I think the pressure in this game is going to be similar to that. It's a do or die. It's probably between the World Cup and the British and Irish Lions series, it's as big as it can get. And Mornay's been there before. He's done it before, in a big game in 2009. And not saying at all that Elton wouldn't have the big match temperament in terms of doing that. I've seen him do that before for us in big games as well. thinking to 2018 in New Zealand, when we had our first victory there. We came on in the last 20-30 minutes, and between him and Andre at 10 and 12, they had an unbelievable partnership and combination. So I mean, like I said, it's a long season. And we have to make sure that everybody stays sharp, stay match fit, handle the press. I feel Elton has done nothing wrong. If you go and look at his actions in that game that he played in against the British and Irish Lions in the first test, you can go through each and every action of him: his tackles, his carries, his kicks to touch, his kicks for poles. It was phenomenal. So yeah, it was just a decision that we made. Obviously, we feel that's the best way to go for this test match.
Thank you, Jacques. And Craig Ray, you're up next. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi, Jacques and Cobus. Jacques, just two things. The injuries to Peter Steff and Faf, are they very long-term, or can you just give us a slightly more clarity on the length of those injuries? Looking forward to the Rugby Championship. But the second thing more to do with this week is just Warren Gatland has said you guys would have spent a lot of emotional energy last week to get up for that game. And he sort of compared it to the 2013 tour where Australia got up for the second test and then sort of faded mentally a bit in the third test. The signs from you seeing your team, do you feel that they look, they don't look emotionally drained? They look mentally strong for this week? What's your take?
The first one was about your first question. Sorry, Craig, was
the injuries. Just to Peter Steff.
The injuries. Peter Steff is still getting checked out. He's seeing another specialist during the week, and we will probably have more clarity at the back end of the week. Faf has a soft tissue injury, so I think Faf will probably be between 3 and 5 weeks. And soft tissue injuries. He's much better today already. When I saw him this morning and we had a chat. So yeah, he's a soft tissue injury. But Peter Steff, like I said, he's going to see another specialist during this at the back end of the week. So we will probably have more clarity on him. And as I said after the game, he hasn't come off a lot in test matches. So let's hope it's not too serious. But yeah, he doesn't. He's not a guy that normally comes off. Then in terms of big games like this, it takes emotional. It takes a lot of emotion out of you, or a lot of energy out of you in the build-up. Emotional energy. A quarter-final of a World Cup, semi-final, final takes a lot of. It's draining, because there's so much at stake. So I didn't see Warren's comment, but yes, I agree with him if he say, listen, there's a lot of emotion going into these games, and they are, and it's something that we will have to handle as a group, and the same with them. It's something that they will have to handle as a group, So we spoke about it. Luckily for us in our group. They've been there before. It doesn't make it easier, but it helps you having that experience. Listen, I've been here before. I've felt these butterflies before, and you just have to work through it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jacques. Nathan, you're up next. Nathan Kokela.
Thanks, Ray. Good afternoon, Jacques and Cobus. Jacques, at the conclusion of this weekend's fixture, it will mark the first full series as Boks head coach, as the Georgia series was unfortunately cut short. I don't want to ask this question at the post-match presser when emotions are involved, but what have been the best moments, or let me say the worst moments as well for you thus far on the job? Then for Cobus, another opportunity to fund up for the Boks. Do you think playing against a few guys in the Lions camp in the Gallagher Premiership gives you more confidence and added advantage in understanding the opposition?
Yes. Okay. No, I would say the best moments in this series is probably to see this team adapt. There was with COVID, in the times we are currently operating and living. I mean, rugby isn't as straightforward as it was in the past. So, and we said it when we started with this whole campaign 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, that the team that adapts to the changes and the curveballs that gets thrown through COVID is probably going to be the team that walks out victorious at the end of the day, because yes, and we've been in situations where we were isolated for 5-6 days. We couldn't get out of our hotel rooms, and then a bunch of us got COVID, and we were in isolation for 10 days. We couldn't get out of our hotel rooms, and we had to coach online. So I think the best thing is probably how the team adapted to that. And then another highlight for me is after the first test match, the loss, how the players got together in terms of being creative, having a proper review, making plans, and how can I put it, the ownership that they take and the investment they have within the team. It was a highlight to see, and that's a nice thing where I think our team is growing, and we said, listen, we must evolve as a group and evolve on different levels, and that is probably one of the big evolutions we have to get to, is to change the way we handle and the way we do things, because we are becoming a more experienced side. So we will, and that was pleasing for me to see. The bad things was the disruptions, the curveballs, I would say, is the not being able to work with a team after the Georgia game. The last time I worked with a team was on that Sunday, and then I haven't worked with them before the game at all, after the game against the Bulls. So missing that coaching time with the group and not having a defense session with them, and the guys who took over, Rassie, Stokker, Dion, Dawn, I mean, all hands on deck. But we love, personally me, I love coaching, I love working with the players, I like being on the field. It's the highlight of my day, and not having had that for 2 weeks wasn't nice.
Thank you, Jacques. And Cobus, your question relating to your experience in the Premiership?
Yeah, I think it is a good thing that we know a lot of the players. As you can see in our squad, we have a lot of players that play in the UK. So, like Puff and them at Sale, they know the Currys. We know the Biggers and Laws and all of them. I think it is good. But even the players that don't know them, we've got enough video on them. We can look at them. We can analyze them. So at the end of the day, it's our team working together. Me giving maybe a few triggers of Dan and Laws, and this guy helping here and this and that. But I think overall we do enough homework on the team that everyone's ready for anything. And like Jacques said, they can go through you, over you. They've got a team that can do anything. So we have to be able to adapt.
Thank you, Cobus. Kevin Rich, good afternoon.
How's it, guys? How's it, Jacques? Jacques, it's just further to Warren's comment and talking about the emotional energy and everything. A lot of people forget that before the World Cup final, you only had a 6-day turnaround, whereas now you're having the proper 7-day. I mean, you didn't play this last test on a Sunday. How much easier does that make it? And then an ancillary part of my question is, how much will having been through that whole World Cup final experience, and what Warren maybe is forgetting, that you must have had a lot of emotional energy in beating his team in the World Cup semi-final as well. How much of the experience of coming through that is helpful this week? Because as you say, you're almost playing a World Cup final, and you were successful in that World Cup final, so it should actually be helpful.
Yeah, Gavin, that's how you grow as a team. I always say that's why I think, in my opinion, I might be wrong, why they call it test matches, because each match that you play is a specific test, and sometimes you fail that test if you don't win the game. But I promise you, in your career, that same test that you maybe the test is physicality, maybe the test is your ability to adapt, maybe the test is your ability to play fearless. So So if you fail in a specific game or a test match, you will definitely get challenged with that same test again somewhere in your career as a player and as a coach. And you will only evolve in your career if you pass that test. So, that's the nice thing about test match rugby is every test is a test. And the test, I mean, we've played big games before as the Springboks where we lost, if I go back, probably 2018, that England game at Twickenham where we lost at the end, and then the following game. So we struggled to close out to get the result at the back end. Even 2018 against New Zealand in Pretoria, we had a healthy lead and we didn't close out that game. We lost it. We led that game for 81 minutes and then we lost it in the 82nd. And that's what I mean. So as a team, we had to grow. We have to find ways and adapt and evolve and to how to close out games. And I think that's how you learn, by probably trying something, failing, trying and say, listen, that way doesn't work. Let's go in another way. And then eventually, I think big games like in that semi-final. I mean that was a massive game that we had to close out at the back end of the game, and that's where you take you grow a little bit, as a team, and then you go into a final and you impress your moments. I mean, even in the World Cup final, even last weekend, I mean, the score, I think I can't remember, but it was way deep in the second half. The score was 11-9. It was on a knife edge. It could have gone either way. So it's being in that pressure moment that develop you. So yes, I like I said, I didn't read Warren's comments, but he's right in saying that there's a lot of emotion that go into these big games because there is so much at stake. You're playing for your country, and you want to do it for your country. You want to do it for your fans. You want to do it for your family. You want to do it for the team. You don't want to disappoint you as a person. You put in all the effort. So yes, there will be a lot of emotional energy going into this game in both teams. And yes, you're right, Kevin. It does help us being there before. It doesn't make it easier, not at all. But when you're in that moment, you think, yes, I've been here before, and you can relate back to when you felt that, or when you felt that pressure. So yes, and it's not, like you say, it's not a 6-day turnaround for us, it's a 7-day. So the nice thing for that is we can go through our normal process as we normally do in a 7-day turnaround.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Jacques. We probably have another 3 to 4 minutes for this section. We're going to fit in Matthew Pearce before we close off with Percival Young, who probably wants a very brief summary in Afrikaans. Matthew Pearce, over to you again.
Thank you, Rayon. If I could turn to Cobus. Cobus, I'll try and roll it into one, given the time. But Jacques said sort of like replacement with you and Faf. I guess the biggest fundamental difference is the left foot dominance versus the right foot dominance when kicking. So if you could just talk about that, but then also notwithstanding Handré Pollard's injury shortly after going to France, how much of a factor is that, having spent time with him at Montpellier, even if just in training and striking up an understanding?
Yeah. Yeah, Fafa is left. I'm right-footed. I don't think it matters too much. We only have to put a screen on the other side. Everything else stays the same, I think. Well, I know. So yeah, we all know what to do. We all have our jobs, and it doesn't change if it's me or Faf or Herschel. We know exactly what to do and when to do it. So it's just for us to go out there and execute it to the best of our ability. And what was the other one? Oh,
Handré at Montpellier.
Well, we spent a whole year probably having every morning a breakfast together, seeing that we can't speak French yet. So the understanding is quite good, even though it was only trainings and all of that. But if you get here, the way we train here, you can find your combination, find your feet, or find your relationship in the time you've been here. We've been together now for how many weeks? 6, 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
A long time, and it's only us. It's this little family together that wants to go out there and put out a performance that's worthy and makes the country proud and all of that. So the relationship between everyone here is probably to the highest it can be.
And Cobus, if I could just ask you about the selection of the Lions scrum half. So Ali Price, once again in the starting lineup with Conor Murray on the bench. Does that say something to you about the way they want to approach the game from the first whistle?
Well, Ali started the first game, first test. They're both quality scrum halves. I think they want to start probably with a little bit more pace, throw the ball around. Like we said, they've got a team that can do anything. I mean, it's 4 countries together. So we just have to be ready for anything. And then they've got Conor, who's been around for a long time, which can come in and finish a game if they have to, or close the game down. But again, it's up to us that we put our game on them and take their game away from them. So yeah, Ali is I think, my opinion, Ali is a bit of a quicker 9, and Conor will bring calmness to the team.
Thank you, Cobus, and thank you, Cobus. Thank you, Matt. We close off this section. Percival Young.
Ek sê vir jou baie dankie. Goeiemiddag, meneer After. Goeiemiddag, Cobus. Jacques, kan ek van net vra? Wat is jou denkwyse agter die veranderings in jou span, meneer? Die veranderings wat jy gemaak het in die span vir hierdie week. En net kortliks, daar's veranderinge natuurlik in die span. Is daar enige veranderings aan jou bestuurspan? Gaan byvoorbeeld jou water dis nog dieselfde wees vir hierdie naweek se wedstryd? En dan Cobus, kan ek net vra, Cobus, jou afvraag, jy 'n soort van dieselfde tipe spel soos Faf. Is daar baie druk op jou om daai hoë standaard vir hierdie naweek in beslis te doen?
Okay, ek gaan. Okay, Percy, die veranderinge wat gemaak is, daar was 2 beserings in die wedstryd gewees. Die eerste een was aan Faf en direk in Faf se plek het is vir Cobus. En die rede vir dit is Cobus in hoe ons wil speel en hoe ons dinge doen is baie dieselfde as Faf. En as ek sê baie dieselfde, dan bedoel ek nie, ek bedoel Cobus het sy spesiale karaktereienskappe in sy spel, wat daar is veranderinge in die 2, buiten die feit dat een links en een regs is, maar daar is veranderinge in die 2, in hulle, kan ek maar sê, in hulle skillset, maar die manier hoe hulle ons span dryf, almal in ons span het sekere rolle wat hulle moet vervul, en die manier hoe Cobus sy rol vervul, en die manier hoe Faf sy rol vervul, in daai spesifieke area, is baie dieselfde. Waar Herschel 'n bietjie anderste is. So dis die eerste verandering wat gemaak is, en dan die tweede verandering was in die plek van Pieter Steff. Hy's op beseer, so ons het maar net Franco Mostert wat 5 gespeel het afgeskuif na Pieter Steff, of nie afgeskuif nie, in Pieter Steff se plek ingeskuif op 7, waar hy klaar gemaak het die naweek in die toets, en ons het verlore jager opgebring van die bank af. En dan in Lood se plek het ons vir Morney Steyn gesit, en daar was 'n kan vir jou amper sê ure lange debat oor moet ons gaan met 'n 6-2 bank of 'n 5-3 bank, en nadat ons dit beide kante toe gevat het, die kant toe, daai kant toe, Elton, Morney was baie naby, en ons het besluit vir die naweek dink ons Morney, en uit die aard van die saak, sy ervaring was in hierdie situasie al voorheen. En dit is hoekom ons dit is die veranderinge wat ons in die span aangebring het.
Okay. As ek jou vraag reg gehoor het, ek hoop ek antwoord hom. Daar's baie druk op elkeen van ons. Ons sien dit as 'n final. Dit is 'n final. Ons moet dit wen. So ja, daar is druk, maar so kan ons teruglê op die coaches wat vir ons die planne uitlê. Ons almal in lyn kry. Sodat almal weet wat hulle moet doen, weet waarom dit te doen. En ons was al daar, so ons het, soos ons vroeër gesê het, jy kan terugval op daai prentjie van die gevoel waar, yes, ons is onder druk, hoe hanteer ons dit? Ons was al daar, ons moet net weer terug gaan en onthou, en weer eens dit val op die preparation wat ons insit in die week, en dis alwaar op ons nou fokus, so, ons kort 'n goeie week om goeie voet in die game in te sit.
Baie dankie
Jacques.
julle twee. Baie dankie aan Percy.
Jacques,
Thank you very much. That then
Rand,
Percy, thank
Jacques,
you.
my vraag beantwoord.
Skus, wat se vraag Percy?
Ek het tweede nog
Oh,
my vraag gevra aan bly Jacques
well,
se bestuurspan dieselfde.
Of die afrigtings die bestuurspan dieselfde bly.
Ja nee, daar Percy jammer ek het vergeet. Gaan die afrigtingsspan dieselfde bly? Almal bly dieselfde. Alles bly dieselfde soos altyd.
Baie dankie Jacques. Baie dankie Percy. Ladies and gents, that conclude then our first section of this team announcement. I will excuse Jacques and Cobus, and we will pause briefly, and then we will have